Before he turned 30 years old, one man had marched farther than most people of his time could even imagine, defeated powerful kings, crossed deadly deserts and towering mountains, and carved his name so deeply into history that more than 2,000 years later the world still remembers him. That man was Alexander the Great, a young king from a small land called Macedonia, who dared to believe that the whole world could belong to him. This is the story of how a restless boy conquered nations, changed history forever, and burned like a blazing fire before his life truly reached its peak. Alexander was born in 356 BC in the city of Pella, the capital of Macedonia. His father was King Philip II, a strong and intelligent ruler who turned Macedonia into a powerful military state. His mother, Queen Olympias, was fierce and ambitious, and she filled Alexander's mind with stories of destiny and greatness, even telling him that he was the son of Zeus, the king of the gods. Whether true or not, these stories shaped Alexander's belief that he was meant for something extraordinary. As a child, Alexander showed signs of greatness early. He was bold, curious, and hated losing. One famous story tells how he tamed a wild horse named Bucephalus that no one else could control. Instead of using force, Alexander noticed the horse was afraid of its own shadow. He turned it toward the sun, calmed it, and rode it successfully. His father, amazed, told him that Macedonia was too small for him and that he should look for a bigger kingdom. Alexander's education was unlike that of any other prince. His father hired Aristotle, one of the greatest thinkers in history, to teach him philosophy, science, medicine, politics, and literature. Through Aristotle, Alexander learned to admire heroes like Achilles from Homer's Iliad. Achilles became his role model, and Alexander dreamed of winning eternal glory, even if it meant living a short life. By his teenage years, Alexander was already proving himself as a leader. When his father went to war, Alexander was left in charge of Macedonia. When a rebellion broke out, he crushed it quickly and without mercy. At just 18 years old, he fought beside his father at the Battle of Chaeronea, leading a cavalry charge that helped defeat the Greek city-states and secured Macedonia's dominance. In 336 BC, everything changed. King Philip II was assassinated during a public celebration. Suddenly, at only 20 years old, Alexander became king. Many enemies believed he was too young to rule, and rebellions broke out across Greece. Alexander responded with speed and force. He destroyed the city of Thebes completely, sending a clear message. The rest of Greece surrendered, and Alexander stood unchallenged. Alexander then turned to his father's greatest dream, the conquest of the Persian Empire, the largest and richest empire in the world. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed into Asia with about 40,000 soldiers. Many believed he was marching towards certain death, but Alexander believed destiny walked with him. His first major battle against Persia took place at the river Granicus. Against strong enemy forces, Alexander led a bold charge straight into the river. He fought fiercely and nearly died, but the Persians were defeated. The victory shocked the world. A young king from Europe had beaten the mighty Persian Empire. In 333 BC, Alexander faced Persian King Darius III at the Battle of Issus. Though outnumbered, Alexander used smart tactics and powerful cavalry attacks. Darius fled the battlefield, leaving behind his family and treasure. Alexander treated Darius's family with respect, showing mercy and gaining support from conquered peoples. Alexander then moved south along the Mediterranean coast. One of his toughest challenges was the city of Tyre, a heavily fortified island city. After 7 long months and incredible effort, including building a causeway into the sea, Alexander captured the city. The message was clear: nothing could stop him. From there, Alexander entered Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator. The Egyptians crowned him pharaoh. He founded the city of Alexandria, which later became one of the greatest centers of learning in the ancient world. At the oracle of Zeus at Siwa, Alexander was declared the son of a god, strengthening his belief that he was chosen for greatness. In 331 BC, Alexander faced Darius one final time at the Battle of Gaugamela. Despite the Persians' massive numbers, Alexander used speed, discipline, and strategy to win. Darius fled again, and his empire collapsed. At just 25 years old, Alexander ruled Persia and possessed unimaginable power and wealth. But Alexander was not satisfied. He pushed east into Central Asia, facing harsh climates and constant rebellion. During this time, he adopted Persian customs and clothing, hoping to unite his empire. Many of his Macedonian soldiers resented this change. Tensions grew, and in a tragic moment of rage, Alexander killed his close friend Clytus. The act haunted him and showed the heavy cost of ambition. Alexander continued into India in 326 BC, where he faced King Porus and his war elephants at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. Alexander won, but his army was exhausted and afraid. For the first time, his soldiers refused to continue. Alexander was forced to turn back, realizing even he had limits. The journey home was brutal. Thousands died crossing the deadly Gedrosian desert. By the time Alexander returned to Babylon, he was no longer the young conqueror full of fire. He was worn down by war, loss, and power. In 323 BC, at just 32 years old, Alexander fell ill and died after days of suffering. When asked who should inherit his empire, he reportedly said, "To the strongest." His empire soon collapsed into wars among his generals. Yet Alexander's legacy lived on. His conquests spread Greek language, culture, and ideas across 3 continents. The world entered the Hellenistic age, forever changed by his journey. Alexander the Great did not live long, but he lived boldly. He conquered the known world before 30, proving that greatness is not measured by time, but by impact. His story still asks us a powerful question: not how long will you live, but how bravely will you live? After Alexander's death, silence fell over Babylon, but it did not last long, because the moment the great conqueror breathed his last, the empire he built with blood and fire began to crack. Alexander had conquered the world, but he had not prepared it for life without him. He left no clear heir, only generals who were powerful, ambitious, and hungry for control. His words, "to the strongest," became a curse rather than a solution, and almost immediately his closest commanders turned on one another. These generals, known as the Diadochi, had fought beside Alexander for years and knew the art of war as well as he did. They claimed loyalty to his memory, but each secretly wanted his throne. What followed were decades of brutal wars that tore Alexander's empire apart. Brother fought brother, former friends became enemies, and cities that once celebrated Alexander's victories now burned in endless conflict. The empire was eventually divided into major kingdoms. Ptolemy took control of Egypt and made Alexandria his capital, turning it into a center of knowledge, science, and culture. Seleucus ruled vast lands in Asia, stretching from Persia to parts of India. Antigonus and his descendants controlled Macedonia and Greece. Though Alexander's single empire was gone, his influence remained alive in these new kingdoms. Greek language and culture spread across lands that had never known them before. Cities founded by Alexander became bridges between East and West. Greek ideas mixed with local traditions, shaping new ways of thinking in art, science, medicine, and philosophy. This period became known as the Hellenistic Age, a time when the world became more connected than ever before. Alexander's legend only grew stronger after his death. Stories of his bravery, intelligence, and ambition spread far beyond the borders of his empire. Some spoke of him as a god, others as a hero without equal. Kings and generals for centuries tried to copy him, measuring their success against his achievements. Even Roman leaders like Julius Caesar admired Alexander, and it is said that Caesar once wept because by the same age Alexander had conquered the world, while he felt he had achieved nothing. Yet behind the legend, people also remembered the cost. Cities destroyed, lives lost, friendships broken, and a man who pushed himself beyond human limits. Alexander's life was a reminder that greatness often comes with sacrifice, and that conquering the world does not always bring peace to the conqueror. Still, Alexander the Great remains unmatched. He never lost a battle. He reshaped the world before most people today finished discovering who they are. His name survived empires, religions, and centuries, proving that even though his life was short, his impact was endless. And so the story of Alexander does not truly end with his death. It lives on every time ambition dares to challenge limits, every time a young mind believes the world can be changed, and every time history reminds us that one human being, driven by vision and courage, can rise, conquer, and echo through eternity.